A lot of times the media likes to cover the stories that don't end very well, but the professionalism displayed by your agency and your officers in dealing with that family was just exemplary, and I think really representative of the vast majority of law enforcement out there. So in this particular case, can you kind of tell us about the incident? And obviously they've had multiple contacts with this individual, and so he's well known. And just can you kind of walk us through the whole scenario from start to finish?
Yeah, so we get a call to assist EMS. It's a medical emergency, one that we've responded to along with them numerous times. The young man has really intense seizures. When he comes out of his seizures, he's in a confused state. He's not coherent. He's a big, strong guy, and he comes out swinging, as you can see on the video. In this particular case, he was actually moving around, and he was up walking around when the officers got there. As you can see from the video, my officers know him by name. He's a good guy. This isn't who he is. This is the condition. And in this particular case, they had a couple things on their side. You know, they had familiarity. They knew they weren't dealing with a generally violent person. They were dealing with a condition that causes him to be violent. They knew that they had time and distance on their side. They were out in an open area. You know, you can see from the video, Corporal Mills was able to explain to the family what the device was going to do, so that when the noise came, they weren't thinking that it was a gunshot or a taser or anything like that. He wanted to explain to them exactly what was going to happen. And, you know, in this particular case, that was a luxury, but it was a luxury that was also recognized by an experienced officer that, you know, we don't have to rush this. We're good. There's some urgency because he needs to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. So he took those few seconds to explain what was going to happen. He deployed the device. It was a perfect deployment. You know, normally we're going to target the lower extremity. In this particular case, he had somebody who dropped their arms to their side. So he took the shot and it worked perfectly.
And one of the big things here, like you point out, is that he didn't end up getting injured and you were able to get him the help that he needed. And from what I've heard, he's doing a little better now, which is ultimately the goal of the agency. And then obviously that's helping the community relations too, that you're able to show that professionalism.
Oh, sure. I mean, it was, you know, these officers, like I said, they were familiar and they recognized what they had, and they knew that they weren't being threatened by him, and they didn't want to hurt him. You know, his condition is as bad as it needs to be already. We don't need to make it worse. And the EMS workers were right there and they were ready. As you can see on the video, as soon as the BolaWrap was deployed, they come running in with the stretcher, and, you know, they get him the help he needs right away.
Yeah, one of the things too that we talked about, Chief, that I think this really exemplifies is the frontline officers having access to this technology for that early intervention before things escalate to those higher levels of force. You know, if it's in the car with a supervisor, they're not going to get there on scene. So having it with that frontline officer, giving them that advantage to use this between, you know, kind of the talking isn't really working anymore, but we really don't want to have to inflict pain or, you know, like a taser, baton, chemical spray, or ultimately a firearm. That's really this niche that the BolaWrap fits into.
Oh, absolutely. We that was part of our thought process when we decided to go all in from the initial order and supply everybody that works in the department. And that was, if you're only going to give it to a supervisor, you're hoping the supervisor's not off the day that it's needed. You're hoping he's not on another call and you need it. I mean, it's like only giving fire extinguishers to certain personnel. It just didn't seem practical. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea for everybody. So after meeting with the council, we decided that no, we're going to get them for the whole department. That way we know they will be there when we need them.
So Chief, you know how we talk during our demonstrations about how we believe this tool fills that gap in policing, the gap between verbal commands and paying compliance tool. In the area where you're dealing with people in crisis, could be mental health crisis, could be a narcotic-induced psychosis, could be people just passively resisting. What's your thoughts on how this device fills that gap in policing?
So we have, as you know, we have tons of stuff. We have OC spray, we have batons, we have tasers, we have guns. All of those things are designed to cause pain. This is the first thing that we've ever been able to add to our arsenal, other than verbal commands that isn't supposed to hurt anybody. And that's, we thought that really, exactly how you described it, that fills a void. This is, in the way we look at it, this isn't a use of force. This is an apprehension tool. Sometimes people need to be taken into custody that don't need to be injured. They haven't committed a crime. They haven't hurt anybody. Sometimes such as the case we were just talking about, you're actually trying to save somebody from themselves. And, the same could be said, this could be a suicidal subject. It could be somebody holding a knife, and from a safe place, you can neutralize that without having to cause any further injury to the situation or the person. They just need to give you that opportunity. If you can get them standing with their feet, or in this particular case, man, if you can get them and they drop their arms to their side and you're prepared and you're trained and you have the equipment to take care of that, man, that's golden.
And we hear it said, not just by ourselves, but by the agencies that work with us, that this doesn't just save lives, but it saves careers. That line level officers appreciate the fact that they're given a tool that helps them do exactly what you talked about, to help people without hurting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chief, one of the things you mentioned, obviously, is city council, because there's a lot of external factors that play into, the way the police conduct their business and within the community. Can you talk a little bit about how you presented it to city council and how you like work with the community or community interest in getting something like this that's going to help really reduce those? Don't come up with that next viral video.
Oh yeah, so we were introduced by the product a few counties away in Prince George's County. They have a quarterly meeting with all of the chiefs, and it's a large county. So there was a demonstration done there, and that's where I first saw it. So we took that and we came back with it. And then we thought, well, nobody's ever done that on the Eastern Shore. So we did the same thing in this county, and we invited all of the police agencies on the Eastern Shore of Maryland and parts of Delaware. And we did the same thing here. And I also invited council members, news media. I wanted everybody to see this. And as a result of that, we had one community partner. It's called Operation We Care. And they actually gave us a significant donation because they looked at this and he said, you guys have to have that. You have to have that. We showed it to the city council and they unanimously agreed, you have to have that. So between those sources, we were able to make it happen. And, the way I saw it is, I don't see how anybody could say that having a device like this isn't worthwhile, that it isn't worth the money. It's, how many times does something like that have to be effective before it's paid for itself? Not very many, maybe one. If, in this particular case, had they had to go to, if he continued to be violent and they had to go to some other type of device, the outcome may have been different. And so to us, it's a no-brainer. We think it's a great tool.
Well, thanks, Chief. And one of the other things that we talk about and was really personified in that videos is the training. It's such a key aspect to not just our device, but really any tool. But Mike and I talk all over the country, and there's never been more pressure on policing than there is the last 12 months for changing the way you all are doing business. But I think the real communication between that officer that's demonstrated in this video of what's going on, to everyone informed. I think just that training aspect of how you've implemented this tool, it really helps show, that the training and the communication and the teamwork between the officers and everyone involved really is a key to any good outcome.
I couldn't agree more. The ability to communicate is absolutely the key to police work. You can talk your way into and out of a lot of things in police work, but letting people know, giving them expectations, and then meeting those expectations, that really doesn't get much better than that. And Corporal Mills was definitely the right guy at the right time. He's an experienced officer, really good communicator. He generally cares about people, and it all showed in that one call.
Mike, did you have anything further?
No, we just appreciate your time, Chief. We know how valuable your time is. Like I said earlier, giving officers all the tools that they possibly can have to end situations peacefully, to build trust in a community, nobody takes into consideration the issues that the officer faces after they use force or deadly force. So being able to provide them tools that can prevent or keep safer outcomes, lead to safer outcomes, I think it's a win for everybody. And certainly you can tell the relationship with your agency and the community, it's tremendous. And so again, I complimented you earlier, but I'll compliment you now. We don't see that everywhere. And if we did, right, we wouldn't have the issues that we're facing right now. So it's so nice to see an agency like yourself to build that trust with the community.
I really appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.